So we were all in a car and driving upstate New York on Route 17. I had no idea what we were doing except that it was going to be exciting because it was going to be people performing that I thought I'd never get to see in my life. And they were all going to be there. So it was really, that part was so exciting. We drove until we couldn't drive anymore because cars just stopped wherever they were. There was no further you could go. So cars just stopped, pulled over off to the side of this country road, and that's what we did. We grabbed our stuff and we walked what seemed like forever, and not knowing what we were going to get to, not having any clue of what this was going to look like. We got there, I think it was Friday afternoon, I believe, and the concert hadn't started, so people were just arriving. We found a place to pitch our tent, and our tent was right behind the stage, across the country road, but behind the stage. We pitched our tent, and then we went into the crowd by the stage, so it was starting to get crowded. And then we started having some performers come. Meanwhile, the whole time there's these announcements coming over the loudspeaker. And things like, hey man, so good, this is wild, look at this, you know. So just this whole sense of like, wow, this is really happening, and who can believe it's really happening. And we sat there, and then we watched these people like Country Joe and the Fish, and Richie Havens, and Jefferson Airplane. I mean, just performers after performers, a lot of them coming in by helicopter. Crowds are getting bigger and bigger. The smell of marijuana is like everywhere, and people are just openly smoking. People are taking all kinds of stuff, and at the time, I started to get a little concerned because there was some real crazy behavior. And at one point I was sitting by the stage, not too far back, halfway back maybe. And there was this guy who was sitting in his underwear, and he just seemed kind of eccentric, a little odd. The next thing, without a split second notice, this guy just sort of started making somersaults, flipping over all of us. And I started thinking, what are people doing here? You know, and I was getting concerned, like, you know, this is so crowded. They're starting to talk about the fact that they don't have restrooms set up. They just didn't plan on everybody getting there. They had no idea how many people were going to be there. They didn't have the facilities planned. And so they're starting to come over. Don't worry, we're getting things going. We'll fix it. We'll get up stations. We've got some stations over here. Whatever you do, don't take this pill because, man, there's some bad stuff going around. Don't do that. And so at the same time as I'm loving what I'm hearing and feeling good being with my friends and just feeling like this is an incredible experience, I'm also thinking, like, I don't know how long I want to stay here, because it was scary. But we stayed and it rained. And I don't know if people talk about or think about back to that, but I mean, I remember one night, I think it was Friday night, it could have been Saturday night, it just rained the whole night. So when we got up in the morning, I mean, it was just a mud bath. I mean, everything was muddy, not enough toilets. It was gray. And I'm thinking, how are we going to get out of here? And so we walked and we left. And so we didn't stay for the whole concert. We found our car, and of course, you know, after an experience like that, you start to only think about the good stuff, and you don't think about the scary stuff. And so I think on the way back, we were all thinking, like, this is great. Can you believe who we saw, who we listened to? Like, how you'll never again have this group of performers together. So it was really exciting until we turned on the radio. Of course, in those days it was like AM radio. So we listened to the radio and we start to hear the news reports. We were oblivious to how this, not even thinking about how this is being reported. And so as we're listening, while we're driving home, we're listening to these reports that really sort of present this as a catastrophe, incredible experience, and wild drugs, wild sex, just, people just all over the place. And so we started thinking, what have our parents been hearing all weekend? When we got back, I think it was almost like being out of the experience, we really started to appreciate it. It was this sense that we were a generation and we could make things happen in a way that nobody else had made things happen before. We felt, or at least I felt, we can do anything. I mean, if we can just sort of have somebody announce a concert and have this many people just show up. That was 1969. Anything can happen. And of course that was, politically speaking, I think that carried over. Those of us who have remained politically active and really felt that the 60s was formative that way, I think we carry with us this sense that we can make a difference. We can do it.